everybody. Today is officially 9/11, 2021. It's the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. I gotta say, the last 20 years have been really interesting and different. Travel has changed so much since the terrorist attacks happened. Especially as far as air travel goes. I have to say that it's like even like a year after it happened. In like a couple of months. It was still like they were very rigid about it as far as like people flying anywhere. I flew with my parents around Thanksgiving, the American Thanksgiving in November of 2002, from up here in Kentucky to Orlando, Florida, and I'll tell you, we weren't taking our shoes and our belts off at that point, but that's pretty bad. I know I've talked on this channel before about what happened 20 years ago on 9/11 and, what all happened that day and, how it changed my life and my husband's life and my parents' life. Well, in light of the fact that my dad just passed away, as you all should know, because a few videos ago, I actually shared his honor walk when shortly after he passed. It's got a lot to do with that. Back in 2001, or was it 2021? Don't think so, that's now. But 20 years ago, on 9/11, 2001, things were a lot different for me, obviously. At the time, I was trying to decide if I wanted to go undergrad. I had already graduated with my undergrad degree. So yes, I still have my bachelor's degree. I was trying to decide back then, 20 years ago, if I wanted to go to grad school, and if I did, like, what I wanted to do. I was like, I couldn't make my mind up on what the devil I was trying to do. I wanted to go to grad school, and I was like, I was horsing around with that. And mom and dad let me live with them because they're like, if she's going to school, even if it's part-time, she's trying to decide if she wants to go to grad school or if she wants to do X, this or that, this, that, and the other thing, that's fine. She's not doing anything bad. She's trying to, decide what she wants to do with the rest of her life. Mom and dad, to be honest with you, I think my mother would have let me live forever with her if I hadn't fallen so madly in love with Tony and decided to marry him. Because yesterday was September the 10th, obviously. And that's my 16th wedding anniversary with my husband. So, he and I have been married for 16 years as of yesterday. But anyway, 9/11 for us was, and I've talked about, so I'm not going to rehash all the details on that, because if you want to know what happened that day with me, I've already told that story in another video, so you're gonna have to go look on my channel and watch. You're gonna see a much younger version of myself, probably from like a year or two ago or more, because I've been doing this channel now, and I've looked just out of curiosity. I know that as I shoot this video right now, I've been on 9/11, 2021. I've been doing this for 11 years or something close to it. So, I've changed a lot in the last decade. I just was scrolling through my older videos, and I thought, God, I look different. I do, especially like my earlier videos. But anyway, I am going to talk a little bit about my dad in this video since, like I said, he recently, passed away now a little more than 2 months ago in July. Back, and he's got a lot to do with my story of 9/11. Back 20 years ago, he was obviously alive and quite well, and he got trapped in Canada when that happened. One thing that did happen, and I can't remember offhand right now as I'm shooting this video, if I talked about the fact that I had a pager back then. I'm sure I did. But in case I didn't, here's some details of that day that I probably didn't mention. I had a pager that my dad had given me from his job. And they were paying for it. I can tell this now because what are they going to do to my dad? Fire him? Good luck with that. He retired a long time ago, and he's now deceased. They can't do anything to him about it. Not to sound like an ass, but it is what it is. Well, anyway, I had Dad's pager, and the thing kept going off. I'm like thinking, who in the world is paging me? Or who is paging my dad thinking they're paging him? Or what the heck is my mom doing? I'm like thinking, who's paging me? What is it that my mom could want? Or Tony's or Dad's boss or somebody? Who in the world is paging me? I'm thinking, oh my God, seriously, stop paging me. Because that thing, I had it in my purse. I had, the sound turned off on it because I was in class. And as I'm sure I mentioned before, I was in class. And I felt that thing vibrating against my foot. And I'm thinking, what is going on that is making my pager go batshit crazy? I'm thinking, I'm going to have words with my mom if it's her paging me a bunch. Because Mom knew I was in class. I'm like, don't page me unless somebody died. Unless it's like an absolute, like you need to leave class and come home right now kind of thing. I said, don't bother me. Unless it is like a major emergency, like you need me to come get you or something, or you're sick, you need me to leave class, go over to Cincinnati, get you, and come the heck home, or take you to the doctor over in Bellevue or something. Otherwise don't bother me unless it's an emergency. Well, it was not anybody paging me for looking for Dad or Mom wanting me or something, or somebody else work looking for me. It was the news ticker that pager had on it. It was going absolutely ape shit crazy. It was just like, the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center got hit, went down. Then, somebody flew a plane into the Pentagon, and then they flew a plane into a field in Pennsylvania. And I'm thinking, what the heck? There is some other details, and I don't think I mentioned this in the other video, but here's a real kick in the head. This is 2001. He wasn't up there then. I don't know why I was thinking he was up there then, but he wasn't. I have a younger cousin who is in the Marines. I won't say his name here just to protect him, because I don't want anything to happen to him. He told me he was, since 9/11, he's been at the Pentagon, and they've rebuilt. And he told me that there's where the plane flew into the building. He told me that you can actually see where they've rebuilt that part of the Pentagon. He's like it's like you'll go from the part that didn't get damaged to the part that got hit, and they've since obviously rebuilt it. He's like, you can tell that there's you can tell where they've fixed it up, and it's there's some difference to it. He said, and he's like, it is really, it's a thing, and I'm like, I don't doubt it. Anyway, I got about the size that Dad's phone was. It's a little smaller, but it's about the same size. This is what this is. This is I dug this out of our junk drawer. This is my husband's old my husband's old Nokia phone. This thing, this is what I was holding earlier. This phone this phone is about the size that my dad's phone was in the story that I was talking about. He had a Nokia phone that he could, as long as that phone, that little Nokia phone, had a signal and a charge, my dad could get phone calls anywhere. I'm serious. As long as he had a signal and a charge, if he had, and that phone was turned on, Dad could get calls anywhere. I'm serious. Dad could be in France, have that phone on him, and he'd get a phone call. I'm serious. I could be calling locally, and he'd be answering it over there in France. I'm serious. It's totally crazy. But yeah, like when 9/11 happened, I was like, okay, I got home, and I'm like, I have to call Dad, and I have to check on him, because I was scared. I was like, oh my God. I have to mention one of my favorite movies at this point. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend you watching it, because this will make more sense when you watch it. It's the movie Mermaids. It's got Cher, Christina Ricci, and Winona Ryder, and it's a 1980s, 1990s movie. And it's about a mom and her two daughters. And it's set in the 60s. And it actually shows where JFK is assassinated. I think that was in, 1964 maybe? 63, I think. Something in that neighborhood. It was like 63, 64 approximately. If you're watching, don't correct me. I know about when it was. But yeah, it's like, he dies, okay? JFK dies, and Winona Ryder's character is like, it says, where have all the adults gone? And, she's wanting her dad. Maybe he's in the deepest forests of Bolivia and doesn't know what happened. That's how I felt on 9/11. I know I mentioned that before, but yeah, that's how I really felt. I was like, oh my God, seriously. I want my dad. I just wanted to hug my dad and just hug him and 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 just hang on to him and just kiss him. It's just because, and this is one thing, and I don't think I've mentioned this when I was talking about it in the video that I shot of me sitting here talking. Afterwards, Dad always, I could talk to him, and Dad would be like, yes, I know you're scared, and it's okay to be afraid. I'm here, and everything will, it'll work out. You'll be fine, etc. And I just needed to hear his voice right then. I just needed to hear him say, this is a scary time for everybody. I'm scared. Your mom's scared. It's okay. Later on, when he did obviously eventually come home. And he got home, Dad came home, I'd say, he crossed back into the States in Minnesota. I'm sure I mentioned that detail in the other video. But, what it is he got home, I'd say probably, it was my mom's birthday is Friday, the 17th. He got home just in time for her birthday. I think that was the best birthday gift my mom ever got, to be honest with you. She was like, oh my God, it's you. I don't know who was more happier to see him, me or my mom. I just was I was thrilled to see him. My mom was elated. And it's just, between the two of us, I don't think Dad ever expected to have two people just be that thrilled to death to see him. And it not be a put on. I was just ecstatic to see my poor dad. I just was like, oh my God, it's you. Let me kiss your face. I could not let go of my dad. I just hugged him and hugged him and hugged him and hugged him and told him I loved him. And I said, I am so happy to see you. I mean, in case you can't tell, I love my dad. Okay? I absolutely, and I have to talk about the fact that, yeah, yesterday was a bit weird for me, seeing that Dad passed away, like I said, 2 months ago. I mean, it's just today, this is the first 9/11 that he's not here. And I spent yesterday thinking about him, you know, just because it was my wedding anniversary. It is, in case you can't tell, my dad was very important to me. And he was, my dad, and I can't remember if I said this in the other video, but my dad was, or any other videos where I talk about my dad was an amazing person. He was a wonderful role model, and just, I can't begin to tell you how amazing this man was. He just, Dad never really met a stranger. I mean, he could talk to just about anybody. I mean, he was a charmer. Oh my God, this man could charm the skin off a snake. Okay. I mean, when he was well and had his mind, before he got bad sick with Parkinson's, which is what he died from, Dad could have charmed the skin right off the snake. I'm serious. He was, oh my God, my dad was a charmer. He was something else. He was quite a personality. I mean, babies loved him. I mean, seriously. I can't remember if I told this in the other video where I talked about the fact that he passed. But one of my younger cousins has a little boy who's 3 now. But a couple of years ago, this was before COVID-19 last year in 2020. Back in 2019, my one younger cousin had a little boy back then. He was like, you know, a few months old. This kid, I don't know what was going on. I don't know if he had gas or just, you know, he was getting sleepy and just wanted his mommy to hold him or whatever. But the cousin needed to go to the bathroom before she left with her sister, my other cousin, and her little boy. And she needed somebody to hold the baby so she could go to the bathroom. You know, because the little fella was getting all fussy and stuff. She handed the baby to Dad. Kids quarreling. She hands that baby to my dad. Do you know what happened? I'll tell you what, that kid got quiet immediately. Dad looked at the baby and said, "What are you doing?" That baby got like, baby was like, "Nothing." If it could have talked, he would have said nothing. He's like, "I'm okay now." He's like, yeah, that baby got quiet. Like, I mean, it was like, really. I mean, he's like, "What are you doing, little boy?" And that baby got quiet, like, nothing, Uncle. I'm okay. You know, it was the coolest thing you've ever seen. Dad, babies were like that with my dad. I'm serious. I mean, my dad was that kind of person. You'd hand Dad a baby. If the baby's crying, it would get quiet immediately. It's like, Dad would just talk to the baby like, "Nothing. I'm okay. Thank you." I mean, my dad, it was just like, it was the most magical thing you've ever seen in your life. I mean, I can't explain it to you. I mean, it's just something about my dad that little kids just absolutely just adored. And, I mean, he was that kind of person. You just met him. I mean, I can't think of anybody that didn't like my dad, except for maybe like 3 people. But I know what the story is on those 3 people, and I'm not going to talk about that here. That's a whole nother ball of wax. But anyway, with 9/11, I've been thinking about him. Because, I mean, he was, I mean, that was the hardest part of that day, was Dad getting stuck in Canada. I mean, it's a good thing he came across, got back across in Minnesota. So, anybody from Minnesota watching, thank you. That's the only thing good I know of that came out of Minnesota, was Dad coming home. Thank you for sending the Kentuckian home. Thank you very much. We'll keep him. Well, we are now. Excuse me. Bless me. Bless me. Excuse me. had a couple sneezes there. But anyway, yeah, I mean, with 9/11 and everything, it just was just a strange time for us. What ended up happening, and I don't know if I ever told this, post 9/11, Tony worked at the airport at the time, 20 years ago. Well, this was before TSA took over. What wound up happening is TSA took over. Tony ended up losing his job at the airport because he was at the checkpoint. And it changed everything. Well, Tony, after that, they just, Tony has stayed in security this entire time. He ended up working at a mall close to here. I won't say the name of the mall because it's having issues right now. And then he ended up where he is now, and he's been there for, 10 years maybe. But anyway. I mean, it changed his life. It changed my life because the hotel I was working at the time, they cut back their hours and stuff because nobody was traveling. I mean, people were scared, too scared to travel. That sounds like now, with COVID and everything. Except for the difference between 20 years ago and now is the coronavirus is highly transmissible, where a terrorist attack was just a one-off deal with them. And I'm glad. The only thing that I have a problem with is I predicted this was going to happen. I did 20 years ago, and I told my parents this. I said, when George W. Bush sent those people over to the war that lasted 20 years that just ended recently, I told Mom and Dad, I said, excuse me, I said, there's no end game on this. It's going to last. I said I wouldn't be surprised if it lasts a good 20 years or more. I was right. And I said, what's going to happen? It's going to be like Vietnam was when, we pulled our boys out then. It's going to just be a hot mess, and everything's just going to go, and, just whoever ends up taking the troops out is going to be, and everything is just going to collapse. It's going to be like nothing happened. I hate to say it, but I was right. I mean, I predicted it. I told Mom, I said, I think that's what's going to wind up happening. It has. I really think that, we should have, the whole thing, the last 20 years should have been handled differently over there in Afghanistan and Pakistan and everything. I really do. I think the whole thing should have been from 20 years ago when it started until this year when it ended, should have been handled different. The whole thing. And that's how I felt about it. But I'm not the one in charge. That's how I feel about it. But, it is what it is. But anyway, I mean, 9/11, it's, and I have to say this, I actually talked about this with a friend of mine recently. And he's like, would you ever fly anywhere? I'm like, not really. I have not been in an airplane in 19 years. I have no desire to fly. I really don't. I mean, the only way I would fly now, and this is how I feel about it, the only reason why I would fly now is if I was going, to England or France or Germany, somewhere over there in Europe. Or I was flying to, Hawaii or something. But that would be it. Somewhere where, I can't get in the car and drive there. If I can't hop in the car and drive myself there, why would I drive? I'll fly it, I mean, when I went to university in England, I flew. That was the fastest way to get there. and I flew home, But that was, almost 30 years ago, So it is what it is. Well, anyway, I've babbled on long enough. I do want to say in closing, though, and you hear me horsing around with this phone. I want to say in closing, though, think about what happened 20 years ago today. And think about how different things are. I mean, there are kids today that are adults. They're 19 and 20 years old that, and maybe 19, 20, and 21 years old that, were either born shortly after 9/11 or born, shortly before, that, they don't actually remember their loved ones that were actually in the planes that got flown into the buildings or the field, or were in the buildings up there in New York. They don't remember these people, or, the family members. There's actually, and I can't remember offhand if I mentioned this or not, but at my job that I had 20 years ago, I worked with a lady who was from New York City. And she came in that night, and I looked at her and I said, her name was Darlene, I remember this. I said, Darlene, are you okay? And you could tell she was pretty upset. I think she ended up losing a cousin that day. So I actually know somebody that actually lost somebody that day. I mean, I just wasn't surprised at all. I said, I suspected that's what probably happened, seeing that you're from up there in New York. Well, anyway, like I said, I've babbled on here for nearly half an hour. I do want to wish you all a good day and remind you to, if you see a police officer or a fireman, give them a hug. And one thing, and I feel very strongly about this, I do not believe in defunding the police. I don't. Okay, because the police will help you out. I mean, this is not like a la The Purge, okay? Well, anyway, have a good day. Happy 9/11. And thank an officer and a fireman, all right? And I'll be back later with other thoughts and things, okay?